What if I told you that the biggest reason you're struggling to let go isn't the toxic person or situation itself, but your own attachment to it? That the pain, the frustration, the endless overthinking, it's not caused by them, but by your perception of them? Sounds radical, right? But that's exactly what Stoicism teaches. Your suffering is not in the event itself, but in how you respond to it. Too many people remain trapped in toxic relationships, not because they don't see the damage, but because they don't know how to detach. They confuse loyalty with endurance. They mistake emotional chaos for passion. They convince themselves that staying is easier than leaving. But what if you could change that? What if you could master the Stoic art of emotional detachment, break free from negativity, and reclaim your peace once and for all? In this video, you're going to learn exactly how to do that. You'll discover why people stay attached to toxic relationships, how the Stoics approached emotional detachment, and, most importantly, the practical exercises you can start using today to cut emotional ties and regain control over your mind. By the end of this video, you won't just understand how to let go, you'll feel empowered to do it. So if you're ready to take that step, stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change the way you deal with relationships forever. Why people stay attached to toxicity. Emotional attachment is a powerful force. It binds us to people, situations, and even ideas that no longer serve us. But why do we struggle to let go, even when we know something is toxic? The answer lies deep in human psychology. Our minds are wired for connection. From childhood, we crave security, acceptance, and validation. This craving for connection isn't simply about being liked or loved, it's about survival. Relationships, in many ways, serve as emotional anchors. They represent stability, familiarity, and a sense of belonging. We are social beings, and the human desire for approval and emotional closeness is embedded deeply in our nature. When a toxic dynamic forms, it can feel like a direct threat to our sense of stability and security. This is where the struggle begins. When we're in a toxic relationship, whether it's with an individual or an environment, breaking free feels like stepping into the unknown. We fear the uncertainty that comes with it. The fear of loneliness, the discomfort of change, and the unpredictability of what comes next. All of these emotions keep us shackled to what we know, even if it's harmful. In the short term, staying feels safer. The idea of walking away, of stepping out of our comfort zone, triggers a fight-or-flight response, as though we are facing a life-threatening situation. This is not just about emotions, it's about survival. The brain, wired for safety, perceives the familiar, even if toxic, as less dangerous than the unknown. Toxic relationships, in particular, create dependency cycles that are extremely difficult to escape from. Imagine, for a moment, a rope tied loosely around your wrist. At first, you barely notice it. The pressure isn't significant, and you continue with your life, oblivious to its presence. But over time, as toxic patterns, like manipulation, guilt-tripping, and subtle gaslighting, reinforce themselves, the rope tightens. What seemed like a harmless connection starts to pull at you, constricting your thoughts and actions. The more you struggle, the more entangled you become. You begin to doubt your instincts, second-guess your decisions, and question your worth. This is why many people remain stuck in toxic relationships. They mistake familiarity for love, and they rationalize mistreatment as something they deserve. It becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. The toxic person may create moments of affection or kindness, leading you to hope things will change, convincing you that you can endure the pain because it's a form of devotion. Worse still, they make you believe that leaving will cause more suffering than staying. This is a psychological trap, reinforced by years of emotional conditioning, past experiences, and the deep bonds that make it hard to see beyond the pain. You are stuck, but you don't even know how to begin cutting the ties. Breaking free, then, is not just about physically walking away. It's about rewiring the subconscious mind that has been conditioned to cling to what's familiar. The Stoics teach that our suffering is not caused by external events, but by our judgments and perceptions of them. This is a crucial point. When we are stuck in toxic relationships, it's often because we've convinced ourselves that enduring the pain is noble, that somehow, suffering proves our loyalty, or that sacrifice is a mark of true love. These beliefs are illusions that can trap us in the cycle of pain. True strength, according to Stoicism, lies in self-respect, not in remaining tied to toxic people or situations. Recognizing that detaching from toxicity is an act of courage, not weakness, is where emotional freedom begins. But letting go is hard, isn't it? There's a reason for that. The subconscious mind clings to what it knows. When you've spent years in a toxic environment, being gaslighted into thinking you're the problem, or manipulated into believing you need someone, it's hard to just walk away. You may feel paralyzed, torn between what your mind tells you and what your emotions scream. This is why self-worth plays such a critical role in the process of detachment. People with strong self-worth are able to make those difficult decisions faster, because they know they deserve better. On the other hand, those with shaky self-confidence hesitate, second-guess their decisions, and at times, look for validation from the very people who hurt them. It's a paradox. The very people you're trying to break free from become the ones you turn to for approval. This is where the Stoic mindset offers a way out. Epictetus reminds us that it's not external events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. If you believe a toxic person controls your happiness, then you've already surrendered your power to them. You've made them the judge of your peace. But here's the liberating truth. You are the one who controls your happiness. If you shift your perception, if you tell yourself, I am responsible for my peace, and no one can take that from me, you begin to break free from the chains of toxicity. Emotional detachment starts with a shift in thought, and once that shift occurs, it has the power to transform your entire reality. Now, that brings us to an essential question. What does Stoicism teach us about emotional detachment? How can we apply ancient wisdom to modern struggles, especially in toxic relationships, to reclaim our inner peace? Let's dive deeper into this and explore how you can use Stoic practices to take control of your life and your emotions. The Stoic view on emotional detachment. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, winds howling, rain pouring, chaos swirling around you. Yet, despite the storm's ferocity, you remain still, unshaken. This is what emotional detachment looks like, and it is exactly what Stoicism teaches us. The ability to remain centered, unflinching in the face of external turmoil, is not a mere natural gift. It is a learned skill, a practiced philosophy, a disciplined approach to life. It is a way of being that requires time and dedication. But what does it truly mean to detach? Does it mean closing off your emotions entirely, becoming indifferent to everything around you? Absolutely not. Stoicism does not advocate repression of feelings, it advocates mastery over them. The great Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." This insight is at the heart of emotional detachment. Life is unpredictable. People will betray you. Situations will disappoint you. Relationships will break down and sometimes collapse entirely. Yet, none of these events cause your suffering. It is your perception of these events that causes the pain. And perception, as Epictetus so wisely pointed out, is a choice. A toxic relationship has no power over you unless you allow it to dictate your emotional state. Similarly, a manipulative person only holds sway over your mind if you react in the way they expect. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of control over how you choose to respond to those emotions. The Stoics approached detachment with a powerful mindset rooted in what is within their control. Marcus Aurelius, another key Stoic thinker and emperor, wrote in his meditation, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you are faced with unfair treatment or the negativity of others, remember this core truth. You cannot control their actions, but you can control your response. You have a choice. You can engage, react, and fuel the fire of negativity, or you can choose to step back, let go, and allow their toxicity to dissolve into nothingness." This ability to maintain inner peace, even in the face of external chaos, is what separates those who suffer needlessly from those who thrive in resilience and emotional freedom. At this point, it's crucial to clarify an important misconception. Emotional detachment does not mean being cold or uncaring. Many people misunderstand Stoicism, thinking it teaches emotional suppression or indifference. In truth, Stoicism teaches clarity and emotional discipline, not emotional repression. Emotional repression is when you bottle up your feelings, pretending they don't exist, ignoring your emotions entirely. Emotional discipline, on the other hand, is the acknowledgement of those feelings without allowing them to control your actions. As Seneca wisely said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. When we obsess over toxic people, over their words, their actions, their judgment, we give them real estate in our minds, letting them rent space for free. Emotional detachment means evicting them. The less you let these toxic thoughts take hold, the more mental freedom you will experience. Think for a moment about how much time and energy people waste replaying past conversation, justifying their actions to people who never cared, or chasing after closure that will never come. A Stoic does not waste time seeking validation or approval from those who do not have their best interests at heart. A Stoic understands that closure is a gift you give yourself, not something that can be bestowed by others. Emotional detachment involves accepting that some people will never change, some situations will never be fair, and sometimes you must walk away from the need to be understood. Your peace of mind is far more valuable than seeking validation from people who don't deserve your energy. Now, the question arises, how does one develop this level of emotional control? The answer is practice. It's about creating small moments of emotional restraint that, over time, build into greater emotional mastery. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause for a moment. Observe the situation as if you were an outsider, a neutral third party. Ask yourself questions such as, does this deserve my energy? Will this matter in a year? Am I giving away my power by reacting to this person or situation? These simple but powerful questions are gateways to detachment, helping you gain a clearer perspective and a greater sense of control over your emotions. Understanding emotional detachment is one thing. Applying it in real life is quite another. The first step is to recognize who and what in your life is toxic. It's about seeing the signs of negativity before they can take hold of your peace. And with that, let's explore the signs of toxic people and situation, how to identify them before they begin to drain your energy and disrupt your peace. Recognizing the signs of a toxic person or situation. Toxicity is not always loud or overt. Often, it is subtle, creeping into your life in ways you don't immediately notice. Some people drain your energy without you realizing it, leaving you feeling exhausted, weighed down, and mentally drained. Other relationships slowly corrode your confidence, making you question your self-worth, doubting your decisions, and even second-guessing your very reality. If you cannot identify the poison, how can you recognize when it's killing you? Recognizing toxicity is the first step toward detachment. If you don't know what's harming you, you won't know how to protect yourself. So, how do you spot the signs? How can you identify when a person or situation is toxic? One of the most obvious indicators of toxicity is manipulation. Toxic individuals rarely operate with transparency. Instead, they exert control over you through subtle manipulation, deceit, and emotional traps. They don't come at you with blatant aggression. Instead, they twist your words, distort your reality, and make you feel responsible for their problems. They may even go as far as to convince you that leaving them or walking away from a situation would make you the villain. This is where gaslighting comes into play, a powerful manipulative technique that makes you question your own perceptions, memories, and sometimes even your sanity. You may hear phrases like, "That never happened," or "You're just being too sensitive," even though deep down you know the truth. Gaslighting causes you to doubt yourself, and once it takes root, it's incredibly difficult to escape. A Stoic mind, however, doesn't fall for these tricks. It stays grounded in logic and reason, refusing to be manipulated by the illusions of others. A Stoic understands that their peace is not up for negotiation, no matter how clever the manipulation might be. Next, consider the energy drain some people cause. Certain people make you feel alive, empowered, and inspired. Your interactions leave you feeling stronger and more confident. Others, however, leave you feeling drained, anxious, and emotionally exhausted. Pay close attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you feel lighter and more energetic, or do you feel heavier, as if your mental and emotional reserves have been depleted? After an encounter, do you feel empowered or diminished? These are powerful signs that can help you identify toxicity. Relationships should not feel like a constant battle for survival. If interacting with someone feels like a struggle, that's a red flag. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "Associate with those who make you better, and avoid those who pull you down." Toxic people do the opposite. They diminish your energy, undermine your confidence, and leave you questioning your value. Another key red flag is a lack of respect for your boundaries. Healthy relationships respect your need for personal space, your time, and your autonomy. They honor your right to say no without making you feel guilty or pressured. Toxic people, on the other hand, invade your boundaries. They test your limits, push you to give more than you're comfortable with, and disregard your needs entirely. They don't accept no as a legitimate response. They see it as a challenge to overcome. A Stoic knows that boundaries are essential for inner peace. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary for self-respect. When someone consistently disregards your limits, it is a clear sign that they do not respect you, and without respect, no true connection can exist. Toxicity thrives on drama and negativity. Have you ever encountered someone who always seems to be in the midst of a crisis? Someone who thrives on chaos, gossip, and emotional conflict? They drag you into their emotional storms, forcing you to take sides, prove your loyalty, or become involved in their endless cycles of dysfunction. But here's the key truth: not every battle is yours to fight. A Stoic remains centered, no matter how chaotic or dramatic the external world becomes. The Stoic knows that drama is an unnecessary distraction, and they refuse to be pulled into it. Recognizing when you're being dragged into unnecessary conflict is essential to maintaining your peace. A Stoic doesn't fight every battle. They choose which battles are worth their energy. The moment you realize that the drama isn't yours to own, you can disengage and let it go. Finally, the most dangerous toxic trait of all is control. Toxic people often seek to control your emotions, your decisions, and your reality through manipulation, guilt, intimidation, or passive aggression. They want you to feel small so they can feel powerful. They break you down emotionally to keep you dependent on them. But once you recognize this control, you begin to reclaim your power. No one owns your mind unless you let them. No one controls your peace unless you surrender it. Understanding that you have the ability to take back your emotional autonomy is a pivotal moment in your journey toward detachment. So, what now? Now that you've identified the signs of toxicity, how do you break free? How do you stop these toxic people and situations from affecting your emotions and stealing your peace? The answer lies in perception. How you view the world, how you interpret the events around you, and how you regain control of your emotional responses. Your peace is not contingent on the actions of others. It is determined by your ability to manage your thoughts and reactions. Let's explore how to shift your perception and take back your power, starting with understanding how to let go of toxic influences and reclaim your inner calm. The power of perception. How to reframe your mindset. Everything you experience is filtered through one essential lens: your perception. Two people can face the exact same event, yet one might crumble under its weight, while the other thrives. How is that possible? The difference lies not in the event itself, but in how it's perceived. It's not the external world that dictates our suffering or peace. It's how we choose to interpret it. This is the profound lesson taught by the Stoics, that reality is not shaped by what happens to us, but by how we respond to it. If you want to master emotional detachment, you must first master your perception of the world. Imagine this: You're walking down the street, and someone shouts a harsh insult at you. How do you respond? Do you let it ruin your entire day, replaying the moment over and over in your mind, thinking of all the things you should have said? Or do you brush it off, dismissing the words as meaningless noise, unworthy of your energy? The situation itself is the same, but your reaction depends entirely on your perception. A Stoic would view the insult as the other person's problem, not theirs. They would detach from the words, refusing to allow an external event to dictate their internal state. This ability to separate yourself from negativity and maintain your peace is the true power of perception. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this concept deeply. In his Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates where true resilience begins. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that external events or toxic relationships have control over your emotions. It's natural to feel victimized by someone else's actions, but that belief is an illusion. No one can make you feel anything without your permission. It's your mind, your perception, and ultimately, your choice to either react emotionally or remain grounded. So, how do you begin to shift your mindset and master your perception? The first step is to practice emotional distancing. When something happens that triggers you, take a step back mentally and observe the situation as if you were watching a movie. Instead of reacting impulsively, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Will this matter in a year? Am I giving away my power by reacting to this? This small pause, a mental step back, is often enough to prevent emotional overreactions and regain control. It's a practice that, when cultivated, allows you to stop giving your energy to every negative encounter or comment. The second technique is negative visualization, a method the Stoics use to prepare themselves for life's inevitable challenges. Instead of letting anxiety dictate their response to worst-case scenarios, the Stoics imagine those scenarios in advance. This isn't a practice of fear, but one of empowerment. By mentally preparing for difficulties, you take away their power over you. If you're struggling to let go of toxic people or situation, try this. Close your eyes and picture your life without them. Imagine yourself feeling free, at peace, and unaffected by their influence. The more you visualize your detachment, the more real and possible it becomes. You begin to see that you have the power to maintain your peace, regardless of external circumstance. Third, embrace the idea that your thoughts are not facts. Just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you are guilty. Just because you think you need someone doesn't mean you actually do. Much of our emotional suffering arises not from reality itself, but from the stories we tell ourselves. When you feel hurt or distressed, ask yourself, is this story I'm telling myself the whole truth? Most often, the story we create in our minds magnifies the problem, and by changing the narrative, we change our experience. You have the ability to rewrite your internal dialogue, and in doing so, shift your emotional state. But understanding perception alone is not enough. You need action. The power to shift your mindset is one thing, but you must reinforce this shift through practical exercises. True mastery comes when perception meets practice. That's exactly what we'll discuss next: how to cut emotional attachments and apply Stoic techniques in real life. Detachment is not just a mental exercise, it's a way of living, a practice that requires action. Cutting emotional attachments. Practical Stoic exercises. Recognizing toxic relationships is one thing. Shifting your perception is another. But the real challenge? Taking action. Emotional detachment is not just a mindset, it's a practice. If you truly want to break free from negativity, you must train yourself to let go, to stand firm, and to reclaim your inner peace. The Stoics didn't just theorize about resilience, they lived it. And today, you'll learn how to apply their wisdom in a way that transforms your life. The first step: stop overvaluing the opinions of toxic people. Think of all the energy wasted worrying about what someone else thinks. Every moment spent trying to prove yourself, to win approval, to change someone's mind, it's all a distraction. Epictetus said it best: if someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself against their words. Simply respond, apparently, you don't know me well enough, otherwise you would have said something worse. Let that sink in. The judgment of a toxic person holds no weight unless you give it power. The exercise here is simple. When someone's opinion upsets you, ask yourself, does this person live by the principles I admire? If the answer is no, their words are meaningless. Next, use journaling as a weapon against emotional entanglement. The Stoics kept detailed journals, not to record their lives, but to sharpen their minds. Marcus Aurelius wrote down his thoughts daily, questioning his emotions, analyzing his reactions, and reminding himself of what truly mattered. Try this. Every night, reflect on the toxic situations that tested you. Write down how you reacted and how you wish you had reacted. This exercise builds self-awareness and reinforces your commitment to emotional discipline. Now, let's go deeper. Try a visualization exercise called the observer's perspective. Picture yourself outside of your own body, watching your life like a third-party observer. Imagine you're watching a friend go through what you're experiencing. Would you tell them to stay, to tolerate the manipulation, or would you tell them to walk away with dignity? This simple shift in perspective makes emotional detachment feel logical, not just necessary. Another technique: negative visualization. This is a Stoic practice where you imagine losing the very thing you're attached to, not to cause pain, but to remove fear. Let's say you're afraid of letting go of a toxic friendship because you fear loneliness. Visualize yourself alone, at peace, thriving. Imagine feeling light, unburdened, free from their drama. The more you mentally rehearse a world where you are detached, the less power their presence has over you. Finally, practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics trained their minds by making themselves uncomfortable, fasting, sleeping on hard surfaces, exposing themselves to the cold. Why? Because when you intentionally step into discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can handle more than you think. So, if you're clinging to a toxic person out of fear, try this. Go an entire day without seeking their validation. Ignore their messages. Do not react. Prove to yourself that you don't need them. The more you do this, the easier detachment becomes. But what about the guilt? The emotional backlash? That's the next battle. Because breaking free is one thing, staying free is another. And that's exactly what we'll address next. Dealing with guilt and emotional backlash. Breaking free from toxic people is liberating, but it isn't always easy. Even when you know you made the right decision, guilt can creep in. Doubt can whisper in your ear. The past can try to pull you back. Why? Because emotional attachment doesn't disappear overnight. Because toxic people don't like losing control. And because society has conditioned you to believe that walking away is selfish. But here's the truth: letting go is not cruelty, it's self-respect. Guilt is a conditioned response. From a young age, we're taught to prioritize others, to avoid conflict, to be nice at all costs. This mindset keeps us trapped in toxic relationships far longer than we should be. We feel guilty for saying no. We feel guilty for setting boundaries. We feel guilty for choosing our well-being over someone else's dysfunction. But Stoicism teaches us that guilt is nothing more than a judgment we impose on ourselves. It is not reality, it is perception, and perception can be changed. Ask yourself, would you feel guilty for escaping a burning building? No. You would run. You would save yourself. And yet, when it comes to toxic relationships, many hesitate, afraid of looking like the bad guy. Epictetus reminds us, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Not everyone will understand your decision. Not everyone will support it. But you don't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing your mental health. The backlash will come. Toxic people hate losing control. Expect manipulation, guilt-tripping, and emotional traps. They may play the victim. They may twist the narrative. They may use nostalgia to lure you back. Remember this: if someone only values you when you try to leave, they never valued you at all. Seneca put it simply: he who is brave is free. Freedom requires courage, and courage means standing firm, even when the world tries to pull you back. So how do you handle the emotional waves that follow detachment? First, recognize them for what they are: temporary. Emotions are like clouds. They pass, but your decision, that must remain steady like the sky. Second, redirect your energy. Every time you feel the urge to reach out, journal instead. Every time guilt creeps in, remind yourself why you left. And every time you doubt yourself, repeat this phrase: I am responsible for my peace, no one else. Letting go is an act of strength, not selfishness, and strength grows when you protect it. One of the best ways to protect your peace: setting stronger boundaries. Because cutting ties is one thing, ensuring they don't reattach is another. And that's exactly what we'll tackle next: how to set stronger boundaries without guilt. Freedom isn't just about walking away, it's about ensuring you don't get pulled back in. That's where boundaries come in. But let's be honest, setting boundaries is hard. Many people struggle with it because they fear confrontation, rejection, or being seen as selfish. But here's the truth: a boundary is not a wall, it's a filter. It doesn't push people away, it decides what gets through. Why do so many struggle with boundaries? Because society glorifies self-sacrifice. We're taught that saying no is rude, that prioritizing ourselves is wrong, that love means unlimited access. But Stoicism teaches something different. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. If you do not take control of your energy, someone else will. If you do not set limits, others will decide them for you. So how do you set boundaries effectively? First, recognize that boundaries are not requests, they are rules. They are not up for negotiation. If you say, "Please respect my space," a toxic person hears that as an opportunity to push back. Instead say, "I do not engage in conversations that drain me." That's not a request, it's a fact, and facts don't require approval. Second, expect resistance. Toxic people thrive in environments without limits. The moment you enforce a boundary, expect guilt tripping, manipulation, or even anger. Stand firm. If you cave the first time, they'll test you again. Seneca warned, "He who does not set limits will be ruled by those who do." Third, reframe your mindset around guilt. If someone is offended by your boundaries, it means they benefited from you not having them. Let that sink in. You are not responsible for how others feel about your limits. You are only responsible for enforcing them. Need practical ways to reinforce boundaries? Try this. Short, firm responses. Instead of over-explaining, say, "That doesn't work for me." No justification needed. Limited access. If someone drains you, reduce how often you interact. Distance is a form of protection. Non-reactivity. When someone pushes your limits, do not engage emotionally. Silence is a boundary. 2. Setting boundaries is not just about keeping toxic people out, it's about keeping your peace in. And when you do this, something incredible happens. You stop needing external validation. You begin to feel whole within yourself. You cultivate an inner world that no one can invade. And that leads to something even more powerful: a life of true inner peace. Let's explore how to fully embrace that peace and move forward with clarity and strength. Embracing inner peace, moving on with clarity and strength. Detachment is not about rejecting people. It's not about shutting down emotions or becoming cold. It's about reclaiming your inner world. It's about deciding who and what deserves your energy. It's about realizing that peace is not something you find, it's something you create. A Stoic does not seek closure from toxic people. Why? Because closure is a luxury, not a necessity. Too many waste years waiting for an apology that will never come. They wait for someone to acknowledge their pain, to admit wrongdoing, to finally understand them. But here's the reality. You don't need someone to understand you in order to be free. You just need to understand yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Closure is an illusion. Peace comes from acceptance, not validation. So how do you move forward? First, shift your focus. Stop looking at what you lost and start looking at what you gained. You gained freedom. You gained self-respect. You gained clarity. Every toxic person removed from your life creates space for something better. But if you keep looking back, you'll never move forward. Second, practice gratitude. Toxic people drain energy. They create stress, anxiety, and doubt. Instead of focusing on what they took from you, focus on what their absence gives you. More peace, more time, more freedom. Every morning, take a moment to recognize the calmness in your life, the absence of drama, the return of your own voice. That is a gift. Third, build a future where toxicity has no place. What does that mean? Raise your standards. Strengthen your mind. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. When you embrace peace, you stop tolerating anything that disrupts it. That's how you ensure that the past stays in the past. Now that you've learned the Stoic principles of emotional detachment and how to free yourself from toxic relationships, it's time to take action. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue tolerating negativity, or will you start creating the life you truly deserve, one of peace, strength, and resilience? The truth is, change is uncomfortable, but it's also necessary. Embrace the discomfort. Every step you take toward detachment is a step closer to inner peace. You don't need closure from toxic people. You need closure from the emotional attachment that holds you captive. The Stoics didn't waste time seeking approval from others. They understood that the only approval they needed was their own. So, let me ask you, are you ready to let go of what no longer serves you? To cut the emotional ties that drain you and reclaim your mental strength? If so, start today. Your peace is worth it. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it, because true freedom comes when we help each other break free from toxic cycles. And if you have any thoughts, challenges, or experiences related to emotional detachment, drop a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. Remember, your peace is in your hands. Choose wisely.